The wind howled through the streets of Konoha as 5-year-old Naruto Uzumaki sprinted through the dark alleyways. His breath came in ragged gasps, eyes wide with fear as the angry mob followed close behind, shouting obscenities. Stones flew past him, barely missing his head. Monster! Demon! Get out of our village! Naruto's small legs carried him as fast as they could, tears welling in his eyes as the cruel words pierced his heart. Why? Why did they hate him so much? What had he done to deserve this? Without realizing, his feet had taken him deep into the forest of death, a place even grown shinobi feared. Branches whipped at his face as he pushed forward, heart pounding, not daring to look back. The shouts faded, but his terror did not. In his blind panic, Naruto didn't see the loose earth ahead. His foot slipped, and he tumbled down a steep incline, dirt and rocks following him as he plummeted into darkness. When he finally stopped, Naruto lay still for a moment, dazed. He heard all over, but the pain was overshadowed by a creeping sense of dread. He had fallen into some kind of tunnel, far beneath the surface. His surroundings were pitch black, the air damp and cold. Where am I? He whispered shakily, hugging his knees to his chest. Naruto gathered his courage and stood up, feeling his way along the rough stone walls. He didn't know where this tunnel led, but anything was better than going back up to the people who hated him. After what felt like hours of walking in the dark, a faint light appeared at the end of the tunnel. With a deep breath, he hurried toward it. The tunnel opened into a grand chamber, unlike anything Naruto had ever seen. It was massive, with high ceilings and towering pillars made of strange, dark stone. The air here was different, heavy, almost oppressive. Naruto's breath hitched as he took in the sight before him. At the center of the chamber, seated on a dark, ornate throne, was a figure unlike any he had ever seen. A skeleton draped in black robes, with glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce through him. This was no human. Naruto instinctively knew that much. He had wandered into something far beyond his understanding. The figure, Ainz Ulgaon, once known as Momonga, shifted slightly on his throne, his skeletal face unreadable. He gazed down at the trembling boy before him, red eyes narrowing in curiosity. And what do we have here? Ainz's voice was deep and resonated through the room, filled with an unnatural calm. Naruto flinched, his heart pounding. The fear he felt was suffocating. This being, was he going to hurt him too? Ainz, however, noticed the boy's terror and softened his tone. You, boy, how did you come to be here? He asked. This place is not for the likes of the living. Naruto hesitated, his small body shaking. I was running, he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. They were chasing me, calling me a monster. I ran into the forest, and I slipped. I didn't mean to come here. Chased? Ainz's glowing eyes narrowed. By whom? The villagers. Naruto's voice cracked, fear and sadness leaking through. They hate me. I don't know why, but they hate me. Ainz fell silent for a moment, his mind processing the boy's words. He stood from his throne, his towering figure looming over Naruto as he approached. The skeletal overlord lifted one hand, fingers glowing with a faint magical aura. Do not be afraid, boy. I will see for myself what has happened to you. With a simple incantation, Ainz delved into Naruto's memories, scanning through the boy's life like a storybook. He saw the lonely childhood, the cruel treatment, the beatings, and the isolation. Ainz's skeletal face remained expressionless, but beneath it, a growing rage began to simmer. They dare treat a child like this, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The sheer cruelty of it struck a chord in him. Even as an undead overlord, something about the boy's innocence and the unfairness of his suffering ignited an anger Ainz hadn't felt in a long time. With a wave of his hand, Ainz cast another spell. In a flash of light, both he and Naruto were teleported to the throne room of the great tomb of Nazarick. The chamber was grander than anything Naruto could have imagined, but his awe was quickly replaced by a new wave of fear. He wasn't alone. Around the throne room, Monstrous figures stood, each more terrifying than the last. In the blink of an eye, several beings appeared around them. Albedo, the raven-haired succubus, stood closest to Ains, her expression unreadable. Sholtir, the vampiress, observed the situation with her usual air of condescension. Cocytus, the towering insectoid warrior, stood ready, while Demiurge adjusted his glasses, his devilish features calm and collected. The twin guardians Aura and Mare watched curiously, while Sebas, the butler, maintained his ever-polite demeanor. "All of you," Ains began, his voice commanding. "I have summoned you here to meet someone." He stepped aside, revealing Naruto, who was now shaking like a leaf. "This boy." Naruto Uzumaki. The guardians remained silent, their eyes all focused on the young boy. Ains spoke again, his voice firm. "This child, hated by his own people, has shown me the purity of his heart. He has suffered greatly at the hands of those who should have cared for him, yet he remains unbroken." Ains glanced down at Naruto, his expression softening slightly. "It is because of this that I have decided. Naruto will be my successor." A shocked silence followed his words. My lord?" Albedo's voice wavered. "A successor? Are you planning to leave us?" The other guardians voiced their shock as well, though none dared to question Ains directly. Cocytus, his deep voice rumbling like thunder, stepped forward. "Lord Ains, we are sworn to follow you. To think you would leave us." Ains raised a hand to silence them. "I will not be here forever. The other supreme beings, they have left this world. I may need to follow them one day, but I cannot leave Nazarick unprotected. That is why I have chosen Naruto." Naruto stared wide-eyed, overwhelmed by everything happening around him. He barely understood what was being said, but the intensity of the moment weighed heavily on him. Albedo stepped forward, kneeling before Naruto, her head bowed. "If Lord Ains has chosen you," she said softly, "then I will follow you until my last breath, as will we all." The other guardians quickly followed suit, each pledging their loyalty to Naruto. Though their faces showed varying degrees of confusion, disgust for humanity, and concern, they accepted Ains's decision without question. Naruto, still terrified, could only stare at them in disbelief. He wasn't used to kindness, let alone loyalty and devotion from anyone. But in that moment, something inside him shifted. For the first time in his life, he felt wanted, accepted. Ains, watching the boy's reaction, nodded approvingly. "From this day forward, Naruto Uzumaki will be the future ruler of Nazarick. He will learn from me, and when the time comes, he will take my place." Ains's gaze softened slightly. "Naruto, you will no longer be alone." Naruto looked up at Ains, his eyes wide with hope and confusion. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Ains said, placing a skeletal hand on the boy's head. "Just remember, you are one of us now." And with those words, Naruto's life was forever changed. Naruto stood frozen, staring at the figures who had just pledged their loyalty to him. The idea that he, a 5-year-old boy, was now successor to an all-powerful being like Ains Ulgaon felt too immense to grasp. Still, there was something else gnawing at the back of his mind, a conflict deep within him. Naruto shifted uncomfortably. If I'm here, then, how will I become Hokage?" The room fell silent as Naruto's question hung in the air. The guardians exchanged looks of confusion and slight unease, unsure of what this Hokage was. Only Ains remained calm, though beneath his skeletal mask, he found himself contemplating the situation with concern. Ains's thoughts. "When I looked through Naruto's memories, I saw everything, his birth, the tragedy of his parents' deaths, and the deception orchestrated by Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo. They wanted to control Naruto, using his isolation as a tool to make him dependent on them, spreading rumors that he was the Kyuubi, instructing the villagers to ostracize him. It was all part of their plan." The thought made Ains's undead core simmer with anger. To subject a child to such cruelty in order to mold him into a tool of the state, it was unforgivable. Yet, Ainz knew that telling Naruto the truth would shatter the boy. Naruto had trusted Hiruzen, the only figure of authority in his life. If he knew the truth, it would break him. End thoughts. Ainz let out a deep sigh, shaking his head slightly before addressing Naruto's concerns. Naruto, becoming the Hokage is important to you. I understand. But you must also understand this. You have been chosen for a greater purpose here, within the great tomb of Nazarick. I will ensure that your life in the village continues as it should. Naruto looked up, confused. Huh? How will you do that? Ainz raised a skeletal hand, and a shimmering light enveloped the room. In a flash, an exact copy of Naruto materialized before them. The clone, perfectly identical down to the smallest detail, opened its eyes and looked at Ainz before bowing respectfully. This body double will return to Konoha in your place, Ainz explained. It will live your life, interact with your friends, and carry on as if nothing has changed. You, meanwhile, will stay here and train. When you have learned everything, and are ready, you will be free to leave, but you will also have the responsibility of protecting the great tomb of Nazarick. Naruto blinked in amazement at the sight of his double, a mixture of relief and confusion on his face. So, I get to stay here and train. But no one in the village will know I'm gone? Ainz nodded. Exactly. You can pursue your dream of becoming Hokage while also fulfilling your role here. Naruto hesitated for a moment before nodding. Okay. I'll do it. I'll become the best ninja and the best protector of Nazarick. Believe it. His bright, infectious smile lit up the room, and even Ainz, with his lack of emotional responses, felt something stir. With the matter settled, Ainz turned to his guardians. Albedo, he commanded, take Naruto to his room. He should rest. Tomorrow, his training will begin. Albedo stepped forward gracefully, bowing to her master before turning to Naruto with a soft smile. Of course, my lord. Naruto-sama, please follow me. Naruto, still a bit nervous, nodded and followed her out of the throne room. As they walked through the grand corridors of Nazarick, his small legs struggling to keep pace with Albedo's confident strides, his mind raced with thoughts. He glanced up at Albedo, noticing her striking beauty, her elegant features and long black hair. His nervousness began to surface again. Naruto's thoughts. She's so beautiful. I bet she's only pretending to accept me because Ainz told her to. I mean, who would really trust a kid like me? She must be thinking I'm a joke. There's no way they actually see me as their leader. They probably just trust Ainz, not me. Naruto frowned, feeling a mix of self-doubt and determination brewing inside him. He had dealt with people pretending to be nice to him before. He wouldn't let it happen here. Albedo seemed to notice Naruto's discomfort and glanced at him as they walked. Is something bothering you? Naruto-sama? Naruto, startled, quickly shook his head. And no, I'm fine, just, thinking. They arrived at a large ornate door. Albedo stopped, turning to Naruto with a soft smile. This is your room, Naruto-sama. Please, rest. Tomorrow will be a new beginning. Naruto stared up at her, his nerves returning. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke up, his voice small but firm. Albedo, I know you're only accepting me because Ainz told you to. It's not like you trust me. You trust him. Albedo's eyes widened slightly in surprise. Naruto-sama. That's not. Naruto cut her off, raising a hand. It's okay. Don't worry. I'll make sure you all trust me. I'll show you that I can be worthy of being the leader of Nazarick, and, he added with a grin, I'll become Hokage too. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and I never give up. With that, Naruto pushed open the door and entered the room, flashing a confident smile before closing the door behind him. Albedo stood outside for a moment, her heart surprisingly touched by the boy's determination. Her lips curled into a smile. Naruto-sama, you've already gained my trust, she whispered before teleporting back to the throne room. In the throne room, Ainz had been watching the entire scene unfold through his mirror of remote viewing. He observed Naruto's confidence, his pure-hearted resolve. Ainz couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Even though Naruto was just a child, his spirit was undeniable. He's something special, Ainz muttered to himself, the skeletal fingers of his hand resting thoughtfully under his chin. I haven't chosen the wrong person. Naruto Uzumaki, you may very well be the future of Nazarick. With those words, Ainz dismissed the magical mirror, the image of Naruto fading from view, and prepared himself for the training that would begin tomorrow. Naruto sat in the vast room that had been assigned to him, his small body barely making a dent in the luxurious bed. He stared up at the ceiling, his thoughts racing. Everything felt surreal. Just hours ago, he was running for his life from the villagers, being pelted with stones and insults. Now, he was the successor to the most powerful being he had ever seen. His mind was a whirl of emotions, confusion, excitement, fear, and disbelief all mixed together. What is my life now? Naruto muttered to himself. The events of the last day felt like something out of a dream. Becoming the heir to Ainz Gaon, the ruler of a terrifying place filled with beings more powerful than anything he could imagine, felt overwhelming. His eyes began to droop as the fatigue from the day's emotional and physical strain caught up with him. Slowly, his mind began to quiet, and Naruto drifted off to sleep, his small body sinking into the soft, luxurious bed. The next morning, Naruto's peaceful slumber was gently interrupted by the sound of a soft, melodic voice. Naruto-sama, please wake up. Naruto blinked groggily, rubbing his eyes as the voice registered. A beautiful maid stood at his bedside, her uniform pristine, her expression calm and composed. She bowed slightly as Naruto sat up, still disoriented from the sheer comfort of the bed. Good morning, Naruto-sama, the maid said politely. It is time for you to get ready. Please take a bath and come to the dining hall when you're finished. Ainz-sama awaits. Naruto nodded groggily, still trying to process everything as he slipped out of bed. He followed the maid's directions and soon found himself in a bathroom unlike anything he had ever seen before. In Konoha, he had been used to cramped spaces and barely functional plumbing. But here, the bathroom was more of a luxurious hot spring. The room was massive, with beautifully tiled floors, ornate pillars, and crystal-clear water that steamed gently in the massive stone bath. Gold fixtures adorned the walls, and shelves lined with luxurious soaps, oils, and perfumes were within arm's reach. The air smelled faintly of lavender and other calming herbs. Naruto stood there, wide-eyed, taking it all in. Whoa! This is insane, he whispered to himself. He quickly stripped off his clothes and dipped into the warm water, the heat immediately soothing his muscles and washing away the grime from the previous day. As he leaned back in the water, letting himself relax for the first time in what felt like forever, Naruto's mind wandered. This is really happening, isn't it? He muttered to himself. He thought about Ainz, the Guardians, and the strange world of Nazarick he now found himself in. I'm actually going to be trained by Ainz. He said I'll be his successor. But what about becoming Hokage? The thought tugged at Naruto's heart, conflicting emotions swirling inside him. Could he really balance both worlds? Could he be both Hokage and the protector of this strange, powerful place? His dreams and new responsibilities felt like two completely different paths. And yet, deep down, Naruto felt a sense of resolve forming. He would find a way. After some time, Naruto stepped out of the bath, feeling refreshed and more determined than ever. The maid who had woken him earlier returned, carrying a set of clothes. Naruto-sama, she said with a gentle smile. This outfit was chosen especially for you. Naruto took the clothes, his eyes widening as he held them up. It was the most luxurious outfit he had ever seen. The fabric shimmered with gold embroidery, intricate designs woven into every inch. Tiny diamonds glinted from the cuffs and collar, adding to the richness of the ensemble. Naruto blinked in disbelief. I'm really supposed to wear this? He asked, a little overwhelmed. The maid nodded. Yes, Naruto-sama. You are the successor to Ainz-sama, and your attire should reflect your status. With some help from the maid, Naruto was soon dressed and ready. He still felt a little awkward in such a grand outfit, but he had to admit, it was comfortable. The fabric felt like silk against his skin, and for once, he wasn't wearing ragged, ill-fitting clothes. When he was ready, the maid guided Naruto to the dining hall. As they approached, Naruto's nose caught the delicious aroma of food, and his stomach growled loudly in response. The dining hall was just as grand as everything else in Nazarick: massive chandeliers, long, ornate tables, and servants standing by, ready to attend to any need. At the head of the table sat Ainz, his imposing figure looking somehow calm and authoritative despite being a skeletal overlord. Naruto, feeling a little shy, walked up to the seat on Ainz's right and sat down. "Good morning, Naruto," Ainz said, his voice calm and deep. "I trust you slept well?" Naruto nodded quickly. "Yeah? It was the best sleep I've ever had. Thanks." Ainz gave a slight nod. "Good. Today, we begin your training." Naruto's eyes lit up with excitement at the mention of training. But before he could say anything, the doors to the dining hall opened, and several maids entered carrying plates full of all kinds of dishes. Naruto's mouth watered as the smell of freshly cooked food filled the air. There were all sorts of delicacies laid out: roast meats, fresh fruits, pastries, and soups. The sheer variety was overwhelming. As the maids began placing the dishes in front of him, Naruto's mind zeroed in on one specific question. "Do you have ramen?" he asked, his voice filled with hope. One of the maids smiled softly and nodded. "Yes, Naruto-sama. Ainz-sama instructed us to learn the recipe from your favorite ramen stall in Konoha." Naruto stared at her in disbelief. You did?" The maid placed a steaming bowl of ramen in front of Naruto, perfectly replicating the familiar dish from his favorite place. Naruto's heart swelled with emotion as he looked over at Ainz, his eyes misty. "Thank you," Naruto said, his voice cracking slightly. "Thank you so much." Ainz raised a hand, his voice gentle. "There is no need to thank me, Naruto. I want you to feel at home here. You are part of Nazarick now." Naruto's heart soared at Ainz's words. For the first time in his life, he felt like he truly belonged somewhere. He dug into the ramen, savoring every bite, and for a brief moment, all of his worries melted away. The warmth of the meal, the care put into making it, Naruto knew he wasn't alone anymore. As the breakfast continued, Naruto ate his fill, chatting occasionally with Ainz, who answered his questions about the tomb and its inhabitants. Once the meal was over, Ainz stood up. "Naruto," Ainz said, his tone firm but not harsh, "your training begins now. Are you ready?" Naruto nodded, his eyes filled with determination. "I'm ready. Let's do this." Ainz gestured for Naruto to follow him, and together they left the dining hall, the sound of their footsteps echoing through the grand halls of Nazarick. Naruto followed closely behind Ainz, his footsteps echoing in the grand corridors of Nazarick. The excitement from breakfast was still coursing through his veins, but now, it was mixed with anticipation and nerves. Today, his training would begin. He glanced up at Ainz's imposing figure, the skeletal overlord walking calmly ahead. It was hard to believe that just a short time ago, he was running from villagers who hated him, and now, he was walking with the most powerful being in the world, preparing to be trained as his successor. After several minutes of walking, they arrived at an enormous set of double doors. Ainz raised his hand, and the doors opened with a heavy creak, revealing a vast training ground. The space was unlike anything Naruto had ever seen, massive in scale, with large stone pillars and open areas, all lit by a glowing, magical light that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. In the center of the training ground stood Cocytus, the insectoid warrior whose body was covered in thick ice-like armor. His tall, fearsome figure gleamed in the light, his multiple arms folded across his chest. When Naruto and Ainz entered the room, Cocytus immediately dropped to one knee, bowing his head in respect. "Lord Ainz, Naruto-sama," Kokaitis' voice rumbled like the sound of grinding ice. It is an honor to serve in your training. Naruto blinked in surprise. He still wasn't used to these powerful beings showing him such respect. He looked up at Ainz, who gave him a small nod before turning to Kokaitis. Kokaitis, as I've instructed, you will handle Naruto's combat training. He must learn the ways of combat, both physical and magical. I will oversee his training in leadership and strategy. Together, we will mold him into a successor worthy of Nazarick. Kokaitis nodded, his icy, fearsome eyes gleaming. Understood, Lord Ainz. I shall teach him everything I know. Ainz turned to Naruto. Naruto, you will train with Kokaitis in combat. Learn from him well. His mastery of battle is unrivaled in Nazarick. Naruto nodded, his nervousness slowly fading and excitement building up inside him. Got it? I'm ready, he said, clenching his fists. Ainz gave a slight nod before stepping back to observe. Very well, Kokaitis. Begin. Kokaitis led Naruto to the center of the training ground, where various weapons lay on the ground, swords, spears, axes, and shields, all crafted with intricate detail. Kokaitis extended one of his many arms, picking up a simple wooden sword, and handed it to Naruto. For now, we shall focus on the basics of combat, Kokaitis explained, his voice deep and commanding. You must learn the proper stance, how to hold your weapon, and the fundamentals of attack and defense. Naruto took the wooden sword, gripping it tightly. He raised it in front of him, ready to begin. Kokaitis circled around Naruto, his many eyes watching every move. Your stance is weak, Kokaitis said. Widen your legs. Keep your balance. He demonstrated with his own body, shifting into a powerful stance that looked immovable. Naruto quickly mimicked the movement, adjusting his legs and straightening his back. Better. Kokaitis nodded. Now, attack me. Naruto hesitated for a moment, looking up at Kokaitis' towering figure. Are you sure? I mean, you're so big, and I'm just, attack, Kokaitis ordered, his voice leaving no room for hesitation. Naruto swallowed and charged forward, swinging the wooden sword as hard as he could. Kokaitis moved with surprising speed, effortlessly blocking the blow with one of his armored arms. The impact sent a jolt up Naruto's arm, but he didn't stop. He attacked again, and again, each swing more determined than the last. Kokaitis parried each strike with ease. Good, he said. You have spirit, but you are too reckless. Control your power. Focus your strikes. Kokaitis demonstrated, moving with grace despite his large frame, showing Naruto how to deliver precise, powerful blows rather than wild swings. For hours, they trained. Kokaitis drilled Naruto on the basics: footwork, defense, precision. Naruto's body ached, but he pushed through the pain, his determination driving him forward. Every time he felt like giving up, Kokaitis' voice rang in his ears. Do not falter, Naruto-sama. Strength comes through perseverance. By the end of their session, Naruto was drenched in sweat, his arms trembling from the effort. Kokaitis, however, looked completely unfazed. You have done well for your first day, Kokaitis said, his voice carrying a hint of approval. But you have much to learn. Naruto grinned, panting heavily but satisfied. Thanks, Kokaitis-sensei. I'll do better tomorrow. Believe it? Kokaitis gave a nod of respect before stepping back, allowing Ainz to approach. As Naruto caught his breath, Ainz began the next part of the training. Combat is important, Naruto, Ainz said. But strength alone is not enough. You must also train your mind. A ruler must be more than just a warrior. They must be a leader, a strategist, someone who can think 3 steps ahead of their enemies. Naruto listened intently as Ainz gestured for him to sit. A large table appeared in front of them, a magical hologram displaying various maps and figures. It was a battlefield, filled with miniature armies and terrains. Ainz began teaching Naruto about tactics and leadership. In battle, you must understand not just how to fight, but how to command. The greatest rulers can win wars without lifting a weapon themselves. They use their minds, their resources, and their people to achieve victory. Naruto, though still new to the idea of leadership, found himself fascinated. Ainz showed him how to move troops, position forces, and think strategically about terrain and enemy weaknesses. For a boy whose main strategy had always been charging in headfirst, it was a completely new way of thinking. Sometimes, Ainz said, his voice low, the best choice is not to fight at all. A true leader knows when to strike and when to wait. Naruto absorbed every word, his mind racing as he learned more about what it truly meant to lead. Ainz continued teaching him for hours, guiding Naruto through various scenarios, from small skirmishes to grand battles. By the time they finished, Naruto's brain felt as tired as his body. "You have done well today, Naruto," Ainz said, his voice filled with approval. "But this is only the beginning. There is much more to learn, both in combat and in leadership." Naruto stood, wiping the sweat from his brow. "I'm ready for it, Ainz-sama. I won't let you down." Ainz gave a small, approving nod. "I know you won't." As the day drew to a close, Naruto was escorted back to his room by one of the maids. His muscles were sore, his mind was exhausted, but he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Today had been hard, harder than anything he had ever experienced, but he had pushed through. He was beginning to understand what it meant to be the heir of Nazarick. When he entered his room, Naruto collapsed onto the bed, the luxurious fabric feeling even softer after a long day of training. As he lay there, staring up at the ceiling, he thought about everything that had happened. Just yesterday, he had been a lonely outcast, running from villagers who hated him. Now, he was on the path to becoming a ruler, a protector of an entire world. He smiled to himself, his exhaustion slowly pulling him into sleep. Tomorrow, he would train even harder. He would prove to Ainz, to the Guardians, and to himself that he was worthy of this new role. With that thought, Naruto drifted off into a deep, peaceful sleep, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The soft knock on the door roused Naruto from his sleep. Blinking his eyes open, he heard the gentle voice of a maid calling out, "Naruto-sama, it's time to wake up. Ainz-sama has requested your presence in the throne room." Naruto stretched his body, feeling the familiar ache from the intense training he had undergone over the past year. He sat up, his mind slowly waking up along with his body. A whole year had passed since he had first stumbled into the tomb of Nazarick, and everything in his life had changed since then. "Got it?" Naruto mumbled as he stood up and made his way to the bathroom. As he stepped inside and looked at himself in the mirror, he was struck by how much he had changed. His once small frame had filled out, his body had become lean but muscular, his arms and chest defined from the constant physical training with Kokaitis. He wasn't a bodybuilder, but his strength was obvious. More than that, his mind had matured too. The once hyperactive, impulsive Naruto was now more measured, more thoughtful. Training under Ainz had taught him patience, strategy, and the burden of leadership. Naruto splashed water on his face and got dressed quickly, pulling on his usual training outfit. The maid had laid out the luxurious cloak Ainz had gifted him, black, trimmed with gold, a symbol of his growing status in Nazarick. He draped it over his shoulders before heading out toward the throne room. When Naruto arrived, the massive doors opened before him, revealing the throne room in all its grandeur. Every floor guardian was present: Demiurge, Kokaitis, Albedo, Schultier, Aura, and Mare. Each one stood in a line, waiting for him. Naruto's heart swelled with pride. Over the past year, his relationships with each of them had improved immensely. They were no longer just powerful beings he looked up to. They were his allies, his comrades, and in some ways, his friends. He approached them one by one, starting with Kokaitis, who gave him a respectful nod. "Naruto-sama," Kokaitis rumbled, his voice as cold and commanding as ever. "You have grown strong over the past year. Your determination and spirit in combat are admirable." Naruto grinned up at the icy warrior. "Thanks, Kokaitis-sensei. I couldn't have done it without your training. Next, Demiurge adjusted his glasses, his calculating eyes gleaming with pride. Naruto-sama, I must say, your growth in leadership and tactical thinking has been impressive. You've surpassed many of my expectations. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Hey, thanks, Demiurge. But I still have a lot to learn. Shultier curtsied, her crimson eyes flashing with excitement. Naruto-sama tilde, you've become quite the man in the last year. I must say, I admire your strength and resilience. Perhaps, one day, we should have a more intimate sparring session? Naruto blushed, quickly sidestepping the vampire's usual flirtation. Thanks. Shultier. Maybe later. Aura and Mare stood side by side, both of them smiling up at Naruto. Aura gave him a playful punch on the arm. Hey, Naruto. You're looking strong. I bet you could take down a whole army with that new body of yours. Mare shyly nodded in agreement. Why yes. Naruto-sama. You've become a lot more confident. It's inspiring. Lastly, Albedo approached, her ever-present smile warm and admiring. She knelt before Naruto, her wings slightly spreading out behind her. Naruto-sama, you have grown into a leader we are all proud to serve. Our master made no mistake in choosing you. Naruto smiled at her, his heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you, Albedo. I'll keep working hard to make sure I'm worthy of this. Just as Naruto finished greeting everyone, a powerful surge of magic filled the room. A moment later, Ainz Ulgaon himself teleported into the throne room, his majestic form standing tall on the raised platform of the throne. Every guardian, including Naruto, immediately knelt in respect. Rise, Ainz commanded, his deep voice reverberating through the room. The guardians and Naruto stood up, and Ainz turned his attention to his chosen successor. Naruto, today marks an important step in your journey. You have trained well, both in body and mind, but you still lack something important, the strength to truly stand among us. Naruto blinked, confused. What do you mean? Ainz-sama? Ainz's glowing red eyes focused on Naruto. You are still human, Naruto. Your body and mind, while stronger than they once were, are still weak compared to the beings of Nazarick. To truly stand as my successor, you must ascend beyond humanity. The four guardians exchanged knowing glances. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest. So, what are you saying? Ainz raised a skeletal hand, summoning a small vial filled with a shimmering, dark liquid. This is an elixir that will transform you into something more, something beyond human. By drinking this, you will become a demon, like the rest of us. Naruto stared at the elixir, a mixture of awe and fear stirring inside him. A demon? Ainz nodded. When we first met, your body and mind were too weak to handle such power. Had I given you this elixir then, you would have died. But now, you are ready. Naruto swallowed hard, his mind racing. He glanced at the guardians, who all nodded in approval, their faces filled with anticipation. This was his next step, his path to true power, to protect Nazarick and one day fulfill his dream of becoming Hokage, with newfound determination. Naruto stepped forward and took the vial from Ainz's hand. I understand. If this is what it takes to protect the tomb and everyone here, then I'll do it. Ainz's eyes glowed brighter, and he gave a small nod. Very well. Drink. Naruto uncorked the vial and, without hesitation, drank the elixir in one gulp. The liquid was cold as it slid down his throat, but the moment it hit his stomach, his entire body exploded with pain. Ah! Naruto cried out, dropping to his knees as his body convulsed. It felt like his blood was boiling, like his very bones were being torn apart and rebuilt. The guardians watched in silent anticipation as Naruto's transformation began. His skin glowed with an eerie crimson light, his muscles growing and shifting beneath his clothes. His once blonde hair darkened, shifting to a deep crimson red, and his body shot up in height until he stood at a towering 6 feet. Suddenly, his eyes flared with a brilliant red glow, magic eyes of destruction. the ultimate anti-magic power, had manifested. He could feel them burning behind his vision, their energy swirling, potent and terrifying. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the pain stopped. Naruto slowly stood, panting, sweat dripping from his face. He glanced down at his hands, which were now larger and more powerful, and then up at the guardians, all of whom were staring at him in awe. Naruto-sama, Albedo whispered, her eyes wide with admiration. You've become magnificent. Schultier clapped her hands together. He's even more handsome than before. A perfect demon lord. Cocytus, ever the warrior, nodded approvingly. You have ascended, Naruto-sama. You are worthy of the title of demon lord. Even Demiurge, usually so composed, couldn't hide his satisfaction. With this power, you will be unstoppable. Naruto blinked, still getting used to his new form. Ain-sama. What just happened? What are these eyes? Ain stepped forward, his voice calm and commanding. These are the magic eyes of destruction, one of the most powerful abilities known to exist. They can destroy any magic, and those with weaker magical power will fall before you with just a glance. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. You mean, I can destroy people just by looking at them? Yes, Ains replied. But control is key. These eyes are powerful, but they must be used wisely. You are now more than human, Naruto. You are a demon lord, the strongest of your kind. The room fell silent as Naruto absorbed the gravity of his transformation. He clenched his fists, feeling the raw power coursing through his body. He had done it. He had become something more than he ever thought possible. Ains placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. From this moment on, you are one of us, a true ruler of Nazarick. Embrace your power, and remember your responsibility. Naruto looked up at his mentor, determination burning in his new crimson eyes. I will, Ain-sama. I'll make sure I'm worthy of this power. The guardians all knelt before him in unison, their voices echoing through the throne room. All hail Naruto-sama, the demon lord of Nazarick. Ains stood before his gathered floor guardians and Naruto in the vast training grounds of Nazarick, his glowing red eyes surveying them all. With a wave of his skeletal hand, he cast a teleportation spell, bringing everyone to a massive arena within the tomb. A place where battles could rage without concern for the outside world. The arena stretched endlessly, the floor made of dark, polished stone. Above them, the sky was a simulation of night, filled with swirling clouds and the occasional crackle of distant lightning. It was a place designed for only the most intense combat, and today would be no exception. Naruto looked around, his body still tingling with the newfound power from his transformation. He was taller, stronger, and he could feel something pulsing within him, something waiting to be unlocked. Ains turned to him, his voice calm yet commanding. Naruto, I want to see what you're truly capable of now. You've become a demon lord, but power means nothing if you can't wield it. This will be your first true test. Naruto frowned, rubbing the back of his neck. Ains-sama, I don't know how to use magic. I've never learned any. Ains chuckled softly. Do not worry. In the heat of battle, your instincts will guide you. Magic, like strength, can often be unlocked in the midst of a fight. Trust yourself, and your power will emerge. Naruto nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. He glanced over at Cocytus, who stood like an imposing mountain of ice and armor. The insectoid warrior's blue skin gleamed under the dim light, and his forearms flexed as he prepared himself. Ains turned to Cocytus. You will be Naruto's opponent for this match. Do not hold back. I wish to see Naruto pushed to his limits. Cocytus hesitated, his glowing eyes narrowing in concern. Ains-sama, if I fight at full strength, there is a chance that Naruto-sama could be gravely injured, or worse. Naruto stepped forward, determination blazing in his crimson eyes. It's okay, Cocytus. I trust you, and I want you to fight me seriously. I won't learn anything if you hold back. Cocytus looked down at Naruto, his mandibles clicking in thought. Finally, he gave a small nod. respect evident in his voice. Very well, Naruto-sama. I shall fight you with all of my strength. But be warned. This will not be easy. Naruto grinned, cracking his knuckles. That's exactly what I want. Ainz raised his hand, signaling the start of the match. Begin? In an instant, Kokaitis moved, his massive form blurring with speed that belied his size. Naruto barely had time to react as the icy warrior swung one of his enormous blades, aiming to cleave Naruto in two. Naruto ducked, feeling the wind from the sword's swing whistle over his head. His heart raced, adrenaline pumping through his veins as he dodged another strike. Kokaitis was faster than Naruto had anticipated. He leapt back, putting some distance between them. But Kokaitis was relentless. The warrior charged again, his forearms each wielding a different weapon, slashing and stabbing with deadly precision. Naruto's mind raced. Come on. Think. You've been trained for this. Naruto ducked under another swing, feeling the cold bite of Kokaitis's blade scrape against his cloak. He had to figure out a way to counterattack. But Kokaitis was too strong, too fast. Without magic, he was fighting a losing battle. Suddenly, Kokaitis's massive spear thrust forward, aimed directly at Naruto's chest. Naruto barely managed to twist his body, but the tip of the spear grazed his side, sending a sharp pain through his ribs. He hissed in pain, clutching his side as he stumbled back. Kokaitis didn't relent. He swung his sword again, this time aiming for Naruto's neck. Naruto's vision blurred. He was too slow, too weak. He needed more power. Then, something snapped inside him. A rush of energy surged through his body, like a dam breaking. His eyes flared with red energy. And suddenly, he felt something else, something deep inside him, stirring. Magic. Naruto raised his hand, instinctively summoning power from within. A burst of crimson energy shot from his palm, intercepting Kokaitis's blade and shattering it in midair. Kokaitis staggered back, momentarily caught off guard by the sudden attack. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest, his hand tingling with the lingering energy of the spell he had just cast. What was that? Ainz watched with quiet satisfaction from the sidelines. Good, he's starting to unlock his potential. But Kokaitis wasn't done. The warrior's eyes gleamed with renewed intensity, and he charged again, this time faster and more aggressive. His remaining three weapons slashed through the air, leaving icy trails behind them. Naruto tried to keep up, but Kokaitis was overwhelming. His magic wasn't enough to stop the onslaught. One of Kokaitis's blades sliced through Naruto's defenses, cutting into his arm. Another blow struck his leg, sending him to one knee. Pain racked Naruto's body, and he could feel his strength fading. Kokaitis loomed over him, his spear raised for the final blow. You have fought well, Naruto-sama, Kokaitis said solemnly. But this is the end. Naruto's eyes widened as the spear came down, aiming directly for his heart. No, I can't die here. I promised I would protect Nazarick. In that moment, time seemed to slow. The pain in Naruto's body faded into the background, replaced by a burning sensation behind his eyes. His vision blurred. And then, everything erupted in red. A massive shockwave burst from Naruto's body, knocking Kokaitis back. The ground around him cracked and shattered, sending dust and debris flying into the air. Everyone watched in stunned silence as the dust slowly settled. When the air cleared, Naruto stood there, his eyes glowing a deep, fiery red, the magic eyes of destruction. Every guardian stared, mouths agape in shock. Albedo gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Naruto-sama. Schultier's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. He survived. Kokaitis, who had been knocked back several feet, rose to his feet slowly. His weapons lay scattered on the ground, destroyed by the force of Naruto's power. He bowed deeply. Naruto-sama, I apologize if I hurt you. I underestimated your strength. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow, his breathing heavy. Don't apologize, Kokaitis. I told you to go all out. And you did. I wouldn't have unlocked this power if you hadn't. He looked down at his hands, still glowing with the residual energy of his new power. The magic eyes of destruction. They were terrifying, yet awe-inspiring. He had felt it, the ability to destroy anything in his path. The sound of footsteps echoed in the arena as the female guardians, Albedo and Shultir, rushed to Naruto's side. Albedo threw her arms around him, her voice filled with relief. Naruto-sama, you're all right. Shultir followed suit, hugging him tightly. You scared us. Naruto-sama. Naruto blinked, surprised by the sudden affection, but he smiled, patting them both on the back. Hey, sorry about that. I didn't mean to worry you guys. Ainz stepped forward, his skeletal face unreadable, but there was pride in his voice. You have done well, Naruto. The fight is over, and you have proven yourself worthy of your new power. Kokaitis bowed deeply again. Forgive me if I have caused you pain, Naruto-sama. Naruto shook his head, still catching his breath. No, Kokaitis. You did exactly what I asked. Thank you. I wouldn't have unlocked this without you. Kokaitis stood, his mandibles clicking in respect. You are too kind, Naruto-sama. Your strength is undeniable. Ainz placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, his glowing red eyes gleaming with approval. You have surpassed my expectations, Naruto. You are now truly ready to take on the mantle of leadership. Naruto nodded, his crimson eyes still glowing softly. Thank you, Ainz-sama. I'll keep pushing forward, for Nazarick, and for everyone here. The guardians all bowed deeply before him, their loyalty to their new demon lord stronger than ever. After the intense battle in the training grounds, Ainz gathered his guardians once more. With a simple wave of his hand, a dark portal appeared behind him, its swirling energy casting a deep shadow over the arena. Without a word, Ainz motioned for everyone to follow him. Naruto, still feeling the weight of his newfound power, stepped forward, along with the other floor guardians. In a flash, they were teleported to the grand throne room of Nazarick. The familiar dark marble floor stretched out before them, the towering throne of Ainz-Ulgaon casting an imposing presence over the room. Ainz took his seat, his skeletal form settling into the throne, his red eyes glowing ominously. Naruto, now standing before the throne, sensed that something important was about to be revealed. The guardians all took their respective positions, and Albedo, ever faithful, stood at Ainz's side, her expression stoic yet concerned. Ainz's gaze lingered on Naruto for a moment before he spoke, his voice calm but filled with purpose. Naruto, there is something I must tell you, something you deserve to know now that you have grown stronger. Naruto looked up at him, curiosity and a slight hint of apprehension filling his crimson eyes. What is it? Ainz-sama. Ainz sighed, his voice becoming grave. It is time for you to know the truth about your past, about your parents, about the night the Kyuubi attacked, and about those who were supposed to protect you but failed. Naruto's body tensed. He had always wondered about his parents, about the night the Kyuubi attacked the village. All he had known was what the villagers said. The Kyuubi, the beast that killed so many, was inside him, and he was a monster because of it. Ainz raised his hand, and with a spell, a shimmering image appeared in the air before them. It depicted the night the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. Buildings crumbled, villagers screamed, and the monstrous fox ravaged the village. Naruto watched in shock as two figures appeared, his parents, Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, his mother. Your father, Ainz began, was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, and your mother was Kushina Uzumaki. They loved you dearly, Naruto, and they gave everything to protect you that night. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest as he saw his parents battling the Kyuubi. They were strong, unbelievably strong. His father teleported around the battlefield with impossible speed, while his mother used her chakra chains to hold the Kyuubi back. Yet, despite their efforts, the Kyuubi, controlled by a masked man, broke free and attacked with fury. That masked man, Ainz continued, was the one responsible for the Kyuubi's rampage. He controlled the Kyuubi, using it to attack the village and cause chaos. Your parents fought bravely, but they were no match for his control over the beast. The image shifted, showing Minato and Kushina performing the final sealing ritual. Naruto's breath caught as he saw his father place the seal on him, the baby version of himself. As the Kyuubi's immense chakra was split, half of the beast was sealed into Naruto, while the other half was taken by the Shinigami. Your father trusted Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, to protect you, Ainz said, his voice lowering. But that trust was broken. Hiruzen, along with Danzo, made a decision to use you as a pawn. They allowed the villagers to hate you, to fear you, all to manipulate you into becoming their tool. Naruto's hands clenched into fists, his eyes widening in shock. What? What are you saying? Ainz's voice was cold now, filled with the weight of the truth. Hiruzen and Danzo orchestrated your isolation. They spread rumors about you, letting the villagers believe you were the Kyuubi itself. They planned to control you once you were old enough. Danzo especially wanted to use you as a weapon for his own ambitions. Naruto's mind swirled with disbelief, anger, and pain. His body shook as the realization of what Ainz was telling him sank in. He had always thought the third Hokage was the one person in the village who cared for him, but now he realized it was all a lie. His life, his suffering, it had all been part of a plan. His crimson eyes flickered, and in an instant, his magic eyes of destruction activated. Red energy surged from his body, filling the room with a dangerous aura. He planned all of this? The old man? He let them treat me like trash? Naruto's voice cracked, his anger boiling over. The floor guardians took a step back, wary of the destructive power Naruto was radiating. Even Albedo, who had always been calm and collected, looked concerned. Naruto's hands trembled, and his breath came in ragged gasps. His trust in Hiruzen, the man he had looked up to, the man who had given him hope, was shattered. He betrayed me. He lied to me. Ainz raised a hand, his voice steady. Calm yourself, Naruto. Now is not the time to be consumed by anger. Anger will only cloud your judgment. Naruto's breathing slowed, but his eyes still glowed with fierce energy. He looked up at Ainz, his voice hoarse. What should I do then? Ainz-sama. How do I make them pay? Ainz regarded Naruto carefully before speaking. You will have your revenge, Naruto. But revenge must be taken with careful planning, not blind rage. Hiruzen and Danzo will face the consequences of their actions. But first, you must prepare yourself. Strength, knowledge, and wisdom. These will be your weapons. Naruto slowly nodded, though the pain still throbbed in his chest. I understand. Ainz motioned to Albedo, who stepped forward. Albedo, take Naruto to his room. He needs time to rest. Albedo nodded, her gaze soft as she turned to Naruto. Come, Naruto-sama. Let's go. Naruto followed her, his body heavy with the weight of everything he had just learned. The walk through the dark halls of Nazarick was silent, with only the faint echo of their footsteps filling the space. Albedo kept glancing at Naruto, her heart aching for him. She knew this revelation had hurt him deeply, and she hated seeing him in such pain. When they reached Naruto's room, he stepped inside without a word, but he didn't lock the door, and Albedo hesitated for a moment before following him inside. She watched as Naruto sat on the edge of his bed, his head hanging low. Albedo approached him quietly, sitting beside him on the bed. Naruto-sama. How are you feeling? Naruto let out a heavy sigh. I don't know. I feel betrayed. All this time, I trusted the old man. I thought he was the only one who cared about me, but it was all a lie. Albedo's expression softened, and before Naruto could react, she wrapped her arms around him in a gentle hug. Naruto tensed at first, surprised by the sudden affection, but then, slowly, he relaxed into her embrace. For the first time in what felt like forever, he let himself cry. They'll pay for what they've done to you. Albedo whispered, her voice filled with quiet fury. We'll make sure they suffer for all the pain they've caused you. Naruto nodded, tears streaming down his face as he clung to her. Thank you, Albedo. He stayed there, held in her comforting embrace, until his exhaustion finally overcame him. His body relaxed, and he fell asleep, still wrapped in Albedo's arms. Seeing that he had finally fallen asleep, Albedo tried to pull away, but Naruto's grip was strong. Smiling softly, she stayed by his side, holding him as they both drifted into a peaceful sleep, knowing that, together, they would face whatever the future held. Naruto awoke the next morning, feeling unusually warm and comfortable. However, something was different. There was a weight on his chest that he didn't recognize. His eyes fluttered open, only to widen in shock as he saw Albedo sleeping peacefully, her head resting on his chest, her soft black hair cascading over him like a blanket. His face immediately turned a deep shade of red. What is she doing here? His mind raced as he tried to piece together what had happened. Did we? No. That can't be it. Naruto swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest as he tried to gently shift without waking her. But his subtle movement stirred Albedo, and her golden eyes slowly opened, meeting his gaze. For a moment, they just stared at each other in the quiet morning light, and then Albedo smiled warmly. Good morning, Naruto-sama, she said softly, her voice still laced with sleep. Naruto's brain short-circuited for a moment. His face flushed even deeper as he struggled to respond. His voice caught in his throat. Good morning, Albedo. Noticing the confusion on his face, Albedo sat up slightly, still maintaining a graceful elegance despite the situation. Is something the matter, Naruto-sama? Naruto averted his eyes, his face still burning. How did we? He gestured awkwardly, clearly too flustered to complete his sentence. Albedo chuckled softly, a mischievous glint appearing in her eyes. You fell asleep while hugging me last night, Naruto-sama. I tried to leave, but your grip was quite strong. She tilted her head playfully. So I had no choice but to stay with you. Naruto's heart nearly stopped as he processed her words. I was holding her? All night? His face, already red, somehow managed to become even more flushed. He opened his mouth to apologize, but the words didn't come out. His brain was still catching up. Seeing his flustered state, Albedo couldn't resist teasing him a little. She leaned in closer, her lips curling into a teasing smile. Did you enjoy sleeping with me, Naruto-sama? Naruto's eyes widened, and he felt like his heart was about to burst out of his chest. What? He stammered, his hands flailing as he tried to explain himself. And no. I mean, yes, but not like that. I didn't mean to. It just. He stopped mid-sentence, his face now as red as a tomato. He was panicking, his words tangled as he tried to defend himself. Albedo burst into laughter, her rich voice filling the room. She held her stomach as she laughed, her expression light and full of amusement. Naruto, who was still utterly embarrassed, finally took a deep breath and managed to calm himself down, just a little. When Albedo's laughter subsided, she looked at him with a gentle smile. Naruto-sama, you're too adorable when you're flustered. Naruto blinked, her words catching him off guard. But before he could panic again, she placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm and comforting. Relax, she said softly. It was nice, being close like that. Naruto felt his heartbeat slow down, and for the first time since waking up, he managed to meet her eyes without feeling overwhelmed. A small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Thanks, Albedo. And you look really pretty when you laugh. Albedo's eyes widened slightly in surprise at his compliment, and for a brief moment, a faint blush colored her cheeks. She quickly regained her composure, though, smiling warmly at Naruto. Thank you, Naruto-sama. The two sat in silence for a moment, the awkwardness of the situation fading as the warmth between them grew. For Naruto, this was something entirely new. He had never had someone who cared for him like this, who shared a genuine bond. It was still overwhelming at times, but in moments like this, he felt at peace. Albedo stood up gracefully, offering her hand to Naruto. Shall we get ready for the day? Naruto-sama. Ainz-sama will be waiting for you. Naruto took her hand, pulling himself up from the bed. Yeah. Let's go. Though the morning had started with embarrassment, there was a sense of ease in the air now. Naruto, with his flustered heart finally calming, felt more ready than ever to face the challenges ahead. And with Albedo by his side, he knew he wasn't alone. After the heartfelt and somewhat humorous start to the morning, Naruto and Albedo received a message from Ainz himself, summoning Naruto to meet him in his office. The two made their way through the grand halls of the great tomb of Nazarick, the air around them filled with anticipation for what was to come. As they entered Ainz's office, Naruto found Ainz seated behind his desk, a commanding presence as always. The skeletal overlord looked up from his work, his hollow eyes fixating on Naruto with a hint of pride. Naruto, Ainz began, his voice calm but authoritative. You have unlocked a great power within you. But with that power comes responsibility, more than ever before. Now that you are starting to understand the strength you possess, your training will become much more intense. Naruto stood firm, meeting Ainz's gaze with determination. I understand, Ainz-sama. I'll train as hard as I can. Ainz nodded, satisfied with Naruto's resolve. Good. From now on, your training will be divided into 3 stages. Over the course of 7 years, you will need to master swordsmanship, strategy, and magic. Only by doing so will you truly be prepared to fulfill your role as my successor. Naruto listened intently as Ainz continued. For the first 2 years, you will focus on swordsmanship under Kokaitis. After that, for 2 more years, Demiurge will teach you tactics and strategy. And finally, the last 3 years will be dedicated to magic, under my personal guidance. Naruto nodded again, feeling the weight of the task ahead but ready to face it. I won't let you down. Ainz leaned back in his chair, a rare sense of warmth in his voice. I know you won't. Year 1 and 2. Swordsmanship under Kokaitis. Naruto's first 2 years of training began under the tutelage of Kokaitis, the towering insectoid warrior renowned for his combat skills and mastery of various weapons. Kokaitis greeted Naruto each day at the training grounds, always pushing him to improve. The mornings started early, the cool air of Nazarick barely phasing Naruto as he would arrive at the grounds before the sun even fully rose in the world outside. Kokaitis believed in the importance of discipline, and so the first year was spent honing Naruto's fundamentals, his stances, strikes, and footwork. Day after day, Naruto practiced with wooden swords, learning the art of precision and balance. Kokaitis didn't go easy on him, but Naruto was determined to meet his mentor's expectations. I can see improvement already, Naruto-sama, Kokaitis would say, his voice as cold and sharp as his blade. But remember, skill without control is meaningless. You must learn to master your emotions in battle. By the end of the first year, Naruto's body had become stronger, his movements more fluid. He had become comfortable with the sword, able to wield it with grace and precision. In the second year, Kokaitis began introducing Naruto to more advanced techniques, dual wielding, counter-attacks, and handling different types of swords, from short blades to massive great swords. Every day was a new challenge, but with each passing day, Naruto could feel himself getting stronger. He had learned to anticipate his opponent's moves, his instincts sharpened by countless hours of sparring with Kokaitis. The intense sessions left Naruto exhausted, but he knew this was the foundation he needed. Year 3 and 4. Strategy and tactics with Demiurge. After 2 grueling years of swordsmanship, Naruto's training shifted focus to the mind. Demiurge, the brilliant and calculating demon strategist, took over Naruto's education, immersing him in the art of tactics and strategy. Demiurge's approach was entirely different from Kokaitis. He would sit with Naruto in the war room, surrounded by maps, books, and models of battlefields. The third year was dedicated to teaching Naruto about warfare, formations, battlefield control, and how to use limited resources to achieve victory. Naruto-sama, Demiurge would explain in his smooth, intellectual tone. A true leader does not fight every battle with his hands. He uses his mind, leveraging his resources and people to outthink his opponent. A single clever move can win a war before it even begins. Naruto spent hours studying past battles, learning how to predict enemy movements and counter their plans. Demiurge would often present hypothetical scenarios, asking Naruto how he would approach different challenges. Sometimes, the scenarios felt impossibly difficult, but Naruto quickly learned to think outside the box, using creative solutions to turn the tide. By the fourth year, Naruto began leading simulated battles, commanding troops of Nazarick's undead soldiers in mock skirmishes. Demiurge watched with satisfaction as Naruto's tactical mind blossomed. The boy who once rushed into danger headfirst was now someone who could plan several steps ahead, anticipating the enemy's every move. Year 5, 6, and 7. Mastering magic with Ainz. As Naruto entered the 5th year of his training, Ainz himself took over as his teacher. The transition from physical and mental warfare to magical study was challenging, but Naruto was excited to learn from Ainz. The days with Ainz were intense, filled with learning ancient spells, incantations, and how to control the raw magical energy that flowed through his body. Ainz would take Naruto to vast magical libraries, where they would study the history of magic and the intricacies of different spells. You must understand, Ainz told him during their lessons. Magic is not just about raw power. It's about control, intent, and precision. A single word can change the outcome of a spell. You must master every aspect. Naruto spent hours each day meditating, learning to feel the flow of magic within him. His first attempts at casting spells were clumsy, but Ainz was patient, guiding him through each failure until Naruto could cast spells with confidence. By the end of the 6th year, Naruto had mastered several elemental spells, as well as defensive and healing magic. The 7th year saw Naruto pushing his magical limits, combining the combat training he had learned from Kokaitis with his newly acquired magical prowess. Ainz introduced Naruto to complex magical rituals, summoning spells, and even dark arts that few ever dared to study. The end of 7 years. As the 7th year of training came to a close, Naruto stood tall, both in stature and in spirit. His body was lean and muscular from years of sword training, his mind sharp from Demiurge's lessons, and his magical power unrivaled. Thanks to Ainz's guidance, Naruto was no longer the boy who had wandered into the tomb of Nazarick. He had become something much more: a warrior, a strategist, and a magician, all in one. And soon, he would have to put all of that training to the test. The throne room of the great tomb of Nazarick was filled with an air of tension and anticipation. Ainz, the supreme overlord, stood at the head of the grand chamber, surrounded by his loyal floor guardians and other servants. Naruto, now tall and powerful after 7 years of rigorous training, stood beside him. The day had finally come. Ainz had summoned everyone to witness a momentous occasion, the moment Naruto Uzumaki would be crowned the new ruler of Nazarick. Ainz's skeletal hands held the guild leader's staff, a powerful artifact that symbolized absolute authority over Nazarick. Its intricate design shimmered in the dim light of the throne room, the orbs on it reflecting power, wisdom, and responsibility. Turning to face Naruto, Ainz spoke, his voice calm yet filled with pride. Naruto, over these past years, you have proven yourself to be more than worthy. You have mastered the sword, tactics, and magic, and more importantly, you have shown compassion and strength of character. You are ready to take this throne. Naruto's heart raced as Ainz offered him the staff. It was heavy in both weight and significance, but Naruto grasped it firmly, knowing what it meant. He was no longer just Naruto Uzumaki. He was about to become the ruler of the greatest force the world had ever known. With this staff, Ainz continued, I name you the ruler of the great tomb of Nazarick. You have surpassed even my expectations. From this day forth, you will lead our people, As Naruto took his place on the throne, the eyes of every guardian were on him. There was a silence in the room, a moment of awe and realization. Naruto, the boy who had once been lost and abandoned, was now their leader. After a deep breath, Ainz turned to address everyone present. I have watched over you all for a long time. You have been my companions, my loyal allies, and my family. But it is time for me to go, just as the other supreme beings have before me. Gasps of surprise rippled through the room. The guardians' expressions shifted, their loyalty and admiration for Ainz evident. Albedo, the ever-devoted overseer of the guardians, was the first to speak. Her voice quivered with emotion as she knelt before Ainz. My lord, you have been the greatest leader we could ever ask for. Your wisdom and strength have guided us through every challenge. We owe everything to you. The other guardians followed suit, kneeling and expressing their gratitude. Kokaitis bowed his massive head, his deep voice full of respect. You have led us with honor, Ainz-sama. Under your rule, we have grown stronger, and I swear to uphold your legacy under Naruto-sama. Demiurge, ever the strategist, removed his glasses and spoke with deep sincerity. You were not just our leader, Ainz-sama. You were our beacon. Your intelligence and foresight have kept us safe. I vow to continue your work, ensuring Nazarick remains invincible. Schultear bloodfallen, tears brimming in her crimson eyes, could barely contain her sorrow. Ainz-sama, no one could ever replace you in our hearts. You brought us together and gave us purpose. We will honor your memory forever. Even Mare and Aura, the twin guardians, voiced their appreciation, their youthful faces filled with emotion. Ainz-sama, you've always looked out for us. Thank you for everything. Naruto, standing before them all, felt a surge of emotion. His eyes met Ainz's, and for a moment, he was a child again, grateful for the kindness and guidance Ainz had shown him since that fateful day. Ainz-sama. Naruto's voice trembled slightly, but he kept his composure. You took me in when I had no one. You gave me a family, a purpose. Everything I am now is because of you. I will protect Nazarick with my life, and I'll make sure your legacy never fades. The room was filled with the sound of quiet sobs as the guardians and servants struggled with their emotions. Even those who were known for their stoic demeanor, like Kokaitis and Demiurge, couldn't hide the sadness in their eyes. Ainz nodded slowly, his voice calm but filled with a deep sense of farewell. Thank you, all of you. You have been more than just servants to me. You have been my friends, my companions in this endless world. But now, it is time for me to leave. Naruto will be your leader, and I trust you will follow him as you have followed me. As he spoke, Ainz began to glow, his skeletal form bathed in a soft, ethereal light. The room was filled with a warm glow as his form started to disintegrate into particles of light. Before his final departure, Ainz's gaze fixed on Naruto. Protect them, Naruto. Lead them well. This is your time. Naruto felt tears well up in his eyes as he watched Ainz fade away. He nodded, his voice thick with emotion. I will, Ainz-sama. I won't let you down. And with those final words, Ainz's form vanished, leaving nothing behind but shimmering particles of light that slowly disappeared into the air. The throne room fell into an oppressive silence, the weight of Ainz's departure heavy on everyone's hearts. For a moment, no one spoke. The loss of their beloved leader was too fresh, too painful. But Naruto, wiping the tears from his eyes, stood up from the throne, his heart pounding with purpose. He looked at the gathered guardians, who were still on their knees, and broke the silence. Ainz-sama wouldn't want us to be sad. He trusted us, trusted me, to carry on his work. We can't let him down. So let's cheer up and face the future together. We'll overcome every challenge, and we'll make Nazarick stronger than ever. The guardians, still emotional, slowly rose to their feet. Albedo, wiping a tear from her eye, nodded with fierce determination. Yes, Naruto-sama. We will make Ainz-sama proud. Kokaitis slammed his weapon into the ground as a gesture of respect. For Ainz-sama, and for the future of Nazarick. Schultier, Demiurge, and the rest joined in. Their voices united. For Ains-sama. For Nazarick. Naruto smiled. The pain in his heart slowly replaced by a burning determination. He held the guild leader's staff high. And together, they all shouted. For Ains. For Nazarick. In that moment, Naruto knew that the road ahead would be difficult. But with the support of Nazarick's loyal guardians and his own newfound strength, he was ready to lead them into a new era. An era where Ains's legacy would live on forever. In the heart of the great tomb of Nazarick, Naruto sat upon the throne, the guild leader's staff in hand, his thoughts lingering on his life in Konoha. Albedo stood by his side, her ever-watchful gaze focused on her new master. Albedo. Naruto asked, his voice steady. What does my body double up to in Konoha? Albedo smiled gently and replied, Naruto-sama, your clone recently failed the Genin exam as part of the plan. However, one of the instructors, Mizuki, approached your clone and fed him a lie about a secret test. Mizuki said that if your clone were to steal the scroll of sealing, he would become the #1 rookie. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the mention of Mizuki. He could already sense deception in the air. And what did my clone decide? He asked. Albedo's smile grew cold. The clone planned to avoid the trap, knowing it would tarnish your reputation. However, I conveyed your orders, Naruto-sama. He will go through with the plan, steal the scroll, and meet Mizuki in the forest. You wished to deal with Mizuki personally. Naruto nodded, the gears of his mind already turning. Good. I want to expose Mizuki's treachery, but on my terms. As the night fell over Konoha, alarms rang throughout the village. Shinobi rushed in every direction, searching for the blonde, knucklehead, who had stolen the scroll of sealing. Iruka, Naruto's instructor, was among them. He couldn't believe Naruto would do such a thing. When Iruka saw Mizuki heading toward the forest, his suspicions grew, and he decided to follow him. Deep within the forest, Naruto's clone sat with the scroll, copying it swiftly before teleporting the original to Nazarick. The forest was silent until Mizuki arrived, his face twisted with greed. Naruto, hand over the scroll, Mizuki ordered, his voice full of false encouragement. Naruto's clone hesitated for a moment, pretending to consider it. But just as he was about to hand it over, Iruka emerged from the shadows, blocking the exchange. Naruto, don't listen to him. Iruka shouted. Mizuki is lying to you. From within Nazarick, Naruto and Albedo observed everything through the mirror of remote viewing. Albedo, always at Naruto's side, glanced at him. Naruto-sama, what will you do next? Naruto leaned forward, eyes focused on the scene. I want to see how this plays out. And then, I'll act when the time is right. Back in the forest, Mizuki's calm demeanor shattered. His face twisted into a cruel smile as he revealed the truth. Do you know why everyone hates you, Naruto? Mizuki sneered. It's because you're the Kyuubi. The monster that destroyed this village is sealed inside of you. Iruka's eyes widened, and he immediately stepped forward. Mizuki, stop. He's not the Kyuubi. Naruto is Naruto Uzumaki, a shinobi of Konoha. Fury in his eyes, Mizuki hurled a giant shuriken at Naruto's clone, but Iruka jumped in front of it, taking the hit to protect his student. Blood dripped from his side as he spoke weakly. Naruto, run? Naruto's clone hesitated, then sprinted into the trees as Iruka fell to the ground. Mizuki, furious, demanded, why protect that monster? You know what he is. Iruka, coughing up blood, looked Mizuki in the eyes. He's not the Kyuubi. He's a boy trying his best to prove himself. He's Naruto Uzumaki. Mizuki raised his hand to strike Iruka. But then something strange happened. A swirling black vortex appeared behind Iruka, and from it emerged a tall, red-haired man who looked remarkably like Naruto but far more powerful and mature. A woman in dark armor followed, her golden eyes radiating fury. Albedo, Mizuki froze in terror. What? What is this? Who are you? He stammered. The red-haired man. Naruto in his true form strode forward, handing Maruka a potion to heal his wounds. Drink this, Naruto said calmly. It will heal you. Maruka looked up in confusion, but as soon as he drank the potion, the wound on his side closed, and his strength returned. Naruto turned toward Mizuki, his eyes cold. So, Mizuki, you thought you could manipulate my clone and take the scroll for yourself. Mizuki, trembling, shouted. Who are you? Some relative of that demon? Albedo's eyes glowed with anger as she unleashed her aura. The sheer force of it made Mizuki collapse to his knees, his entire body shaking with fear. He couldn't stop the terror that overwhelmed him, his legs going weak as he realized how insignificant he was in front of her power. Naruto placed a hand on Albedo's shoulder, calming her. Albedo, that's enough. He turned his gaze to Mizuki. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Mizuki's eyes widened in disbelief. What? No. Naruto is in the forest somewhere. At that moment, Naruto's clone appeared beside him, smirking. You're right. That was the clone. But I'm the real deal. Mizuki's face turned pale, and he attempted to flee, realizing he was outmatched. But Naruto's anger was now boiling over. He had seen enough of Mizuki's treachery. Raising his hand, Naruto summoned a black void behind Mizuki. I gave you a chance, Mizuki. But now, you're nothing but a traitor. The black hole swirled ominously as it pulled Mizuki in. His screams echoed in the forest as his body was crushed inside the void, the force too powerful for him to resist. In a matter of seconds, Mizuki was gone, leaving only silence behind. Iruka, still in shock, looked at Naruto. Naruto. What just happened? Naruto turned toward Iruka, his expression softening. I'll explain everything later, Iruka-sensei. But for now, let's just say I've found my true power. As the black hole vanished, Albedo stepped forward, her composure returning. Naruto-sama, is there anything else you need from this village? Naruto shook his head. No. We've done what we came for. He looked at Iruka, his face conflicted. You'll be all right, Iruka-sensei. Iruka nodded, still processing what had just happened. I think so. But Naruto, thank you. With that, Naruto and Albedo opened another portal back to Nazarick. As they stepped through, Naruto glanced back at the village he once called home, knowing that this was only the beginning of his new destiny.